This program I entitled Faking It, The Life of Kenneth J Lane, and I am Daphne Davis. Elegance, luxury, and good taste never go out of style, said Kenneth J Lane, and he should know. His fabulous costume jewelry has caught the eye of the world's most glamorous women for decades. Kenneth J Lane, the designer and bon vivant, who built a global business from the glittering acts of unabashed deception, producing fake and junk jewelry, or as he liked to say, fake or junk, tongue-in-cheek. Mr. Lane was a nonconformist who changed the perception of the establishment towards costume jewelry. He even got the Duchess of Windsor and a host of British royals to wear his costume jewelry, unheard of at the time. He came to be regarded as the first American jewelry designer to not only make it acceptable, but also chic to wear fake jewelry. And in reaching that plateau, he transformed himself into a high society, jet-setting businessman with a lifestyle that was anything but cheap. I myself am a fabulous fake, Mr. Lane once said, the son of an automotive parts supplier from Detroit, or Detroit, as he would pronounce it with a wink. He was indeed one of his own most striking creations. He was still a teenager when he left Detroit altogether. To his languid Midwestern voice, he soon added a slightly British overtone, acquired at the same time that he discovered British tailors, to whom he was devoted for the rest of his life. Mr. Lane was born on April 22nd, 1932, and graduated from Detroit Central High School. A budding interest in design led him to the University of Michigan, where he briefly studied architecture. He loved the Art Deco period, before moving on to the Rhode Island School of Design, from which he graduated in 1954. He set his sights on New York, where designers, he once said, were treated like celebrities. They were the movie stars of the city. There was a certain glamour attached to it. Mr. Lane began his quest for glamour and celebrity with a brief 3-year stint at the art department of Vogue magazine. It was less than successful. I'd spill the rubber cement, I'd spill the ink pot, or I'd cut my finger and ruin the layout, he recalled. For the next 10 years, he designed shoes, first at Delman, then with Roger Vivier at Dior, commuting to Paris to study with Vivier for 3 years. And by 1961, he was creating shoes for his designer friends Bill Blass, Norma Norell, and Arnold Scaasi. His foray into jewelry came about almost by accident. He had been designing jewelry in his spare time when he was hired to design bejeweled shoes, some with rhinestone toes and heels, for a Scaasi show. Mr. Lane suggested that he also create matching earrings and bracelets, and Mr. Scaasi agreed. Mr. Lane then went to the Five and Dime store, bought plastic bangles, and had the workers at the shoe factory cover them with brilliance. Mr. Lane began designing his own jewelry collection in 1962. Soon after, the fashion entrepreneur and ready-to-wear pioneer Hattie Carnegie bought his company and made him the design director. The arrangement lasted less than a year, and he then moved into his very own space in Manhattan, a small studio apartment on East 38th Street, where he designed and sold jewelry for private customers, fashion editors, and as he put it, husbands buying gifts for their girlfriends. Within a few years, he was selling to most of the Fifth Avenue stores and had bought a small jewelry factory in Providence, Rhode Island. Quickly, his name was in fashion magazines and society columns. Mr. Lane became part of his customers' social set, flying to parties around the world, visiting castles, country estates, and island houses. Darkly handsome in his glory years, always suave and impeccably tailored, an amusing and witty man who frequently poked fun at himself, Mr. Lane unapologetically wanted the best of everything, from the luxurious duplex apartment in a Stanford White mansion on Park Avenue to a coveted place on the A guest list for all the best parties everywhere, be they in the United States, England, France, Italy, or Spain. The occasional blowout soiree in Morocco or Egypt also found him on a jet. It was a persona that began forming when he fell in love with fashion as a boy. He once took an after-school job just so he could buy himself a camel's hair coat. And when he had earned the equivalent of the price tag, he quit. And here is proof that he made it. Many women wore his designs together with their own real jewels. Even experts were hard put to tell one from the other. Coco Chanel had accomplished the same dynamic some years earlier, but her fakes were meant for a more limited, well-heeled market, and unlike Mr. Lane's, had little mass distribution. Mr. Lane was self-deprecatingly realistic about his designing talent. My designs are all original, he told the New York Times in 2014. Original from someone. He believed, however, that much of good design was what he called editorial, choosing the right ideas and applying them practically. He drew inspiration, he said, from all over. The works of the celebrated designers like Foucault de Vendura, Jean Schlumberger, and David Webb, the museums of the world, the crown jewelry of the British and European royalty, and of Indian Maharanis, and the cornucopia of ethnic pieces found in markets around the world. I think it's called having an eye, he told the Times in 1993. It isn't necessarily reinventing the wheel. He was particularly noted for his imaginative and unusual color combinations. Amethyst with coral, amber with turquoise, and sapphire with topaz. Early in his career, he came up with such innovations as embroidered earrings, or earrings of peacock feathers and iridescent beetle bodies. Later, when he was a byword among both the moneyed class and the mass market, some of his customers had his faux masterpieces, as he called them, incorporated into the real thing. I started to design jewelry in my spare time, he said. I used to get ideas from the shoe ornaments, and my job wasn't time-consuming enough. Then the whole jewelry thing just snowballed. I quit my job after 9 months and went into it full time. The change came at a time when accessories were becoming increasingly important and a new breed of fashion celebrities was about to unfold. The whole new group of beautiful people began to exist, he said. They started dressing up a lot, and costume jewelry then was rather dull. Mr. Lane's jewelry designs are jazzy, but not vulgar, for people who want to be noticed. And the average price was not considered astronomical. Earrings ranged between $5 and $50, necklaces from $50 to $200, and bracelets from $750 to $100. There are, of course, spectaculars that go up and up and up in price. The prestige of the new enterprise came not with the jewelry's acceptance by women who could barely afford it, but with its purchase by the kind of women who usually use bank vaults for their jewel boxes. Why did they do it? There are times when it is in bad fashion to wear real jewelry, said Mr. Lane, whose customers now include the Duchess of Windsor, Mrs. Henry Ford II, Mrs. William Paley, Greta Garbo, and Elizabeth Taylor, who is never known to balk at real stones. And he said, at a resort, it would be pretentious to wear real stones. But as Mr. Lane pointed out, there are also other reasons. For instance, not everyone has real stones in all the colors necessary to complement their wardrobe. And there are thieves and all that, he pointed out. Occasionally, Mr. Lane's designs attempt to look like real jewelry. A number of women wear his animal bracelets interspersed with their real jeweled bracelets. But most of the time, the jewelry is frankly fake. I use some of the colors that don't even exist in nature. Yellow and bright red. I use some of them for carnival-looking things, he said. The gypsy coin jewelry I do is purposely made to look and sound tinny. It should. If the fashion industry doesn't create an aura of glamour, how can it expect women to want to be glamorous, he asked. Hollywood fell apart when it started photographing stars in the kitchen instead of wearing pearls in bathtubs full of cream. Mr. Lane's customers and friends throughout the years included some of the world's richest, most publicized, and most fashionable women. Jackie Kennedy Onassis, Nancy Reagan, the princesses Margaret and Diana, Babe Paley, and Diana Vreeland among them. And in recent years, worn by Carolina Herrera, Rihanna, Lady Gaga, Jennifer Lopez, and Britney Spears. Through many of them, Mr. Lane became one of the most in-demand escorts of single women and married women, wives whose husbands refused to accompany them to some of the sparkling parties they enjoyed. He denied, however, indignantly, that he was not a walker. If anything, he said to the Times in 1993, I'm a runner. Then he added more seriously, I am a single man and there are single women, and we balance. Walkers are people who have nothing to do. They just escort women to dinners and parties. I have a business. His experience with rich women exposed him to real jewels of the extravagant kind, and he began changing the color of his faux stones to more closely resemble them. When the colors still didn't satisfy him, the rubies were too red, or the sapphires too blue, or the emeralds too dull, he began having his stones made especially for him in Germany. Designer Carolina Herrera remembers a time when there was a robbery during a friend's dinner party in Caracas, Venezuela, and the JKL gems were the only concern. We were at the home of a friend of mine who has lots of jewels, and during dinner, the butler came to say there had been a burglary in the house, and they were very concerned about it because it had happened upstairs. Her only reaction was, oh my gosh, I hope they didn't take any of my Kenny Lanes. Actress Joan Collins was once stopped at customs with her JKL jewels, and even the customs official couldn't stop complimenting her about the baubles. I was going through customs in Mexico. I keep all my jewelry in a box. And the customs man saw it and said, let me open it, let me see. He looked at it and I said, can we go to a private room? Because I don't want people to see it, even though it wasn't real, Collins said. But we went into the private room and the customs man is picking it up and said, very nice, these earrings are very good. Finally, I said, it's not real, you know. It's not diamonds and golds and rubies, it's faux jewelry. And finally, he closed it and said, "You have very nice stuff here." Mr. Lane designed pieces for many of our first ladies. He designed the 3-strand pearls that Barbara Bush wore to her husband's inauguration, the trombone pin for Hillary Clinton, this necklace for Nancy Reagan, and jewelry for both Jackie as Kennedy and Onassis. Kenneth Lane has described himself as part pugilist, part genius, part magician, and part snake charmer. It is an apt, if incomplete, description. He is also the very definition of a dandy. In a career that has spanned 6 decades, Lane has created exquisite jewelry, all of it fake. Snapped up by the world's most fashionable women, Kenny's, as his fans came to call his affordable pieces, made costume jewelry chic almost from the moment he created his first earrings, rhinestone numbers that quickly sold out at Bonwit Teller in 1962. An advantage of his junk jewelry, he quips, "If a stone drops on the floor, I don't even bother to pick it up." A gentleman in the great tradition of the bon vivant, like Cecil Beaton, if he were born in Detroit. Lane's wit, elegance, and eccentricity quickly endeared him to everyone from the Duchess of Windsor to Andy Warhol. He was equally at ease squiring ladies to La Carvel or frugging at the Peppermint Lounge with Edie Sedgwick, making the best dressed lists or hawking his wares on the Home Shopping Network, QVC. "I can do things on TV that simply cannot be done in stores," said Lanes, who might be a snob about some things, but certainly not about his customers. One of Mr. Lane's best-known designs is a copy of a Van Cleef & Arpels Maharaji necklace given to Mrs. Onassis during her marriage to Aristotle Onassis. Mrs. Onassis asked for the copy, and Mr. Lane offered her a choice: pay for the master model, about $1,000, or allow him to mass market the copies. She agreed to the copies. Sometime later in the 1980s, he said, she had been watching television and told him, "I saw our necklace on Dynasty." Mr. Lane also designed or copied the jewelry that Audrey Hepburn wore in Breakfast at Tiffany's. He designed this famous necklace that Princess Diana wore. He takes great pride in the artistry of his work, which is often mistaken for the real thing. Lane has always had an eye, and that extends to the stylish bounty in his packed to brim duplex. Suitably, he lived like a Maharaja in one of the few surviving mansions on Park Avenue. He enjoyed collecting memento mori jewelry over the years, even though he never once incorporated skulls into his own design. There, with the long, he entertained the city's elite, Campari on the rocks in hand. "My walls are so filled now," he says, gesturing languidly at his collection of Orientalist masterpieces. "I'm running out of space." In 1975, Mr. Lane married Nicola Wymuth, a member of London's swinging set, who achieved a small piece of cultural immortality as the subject of a portrait by her friend Andy Warhol. She and Mr. Lane were divorced within 2 years, and no immediate family members survived. "She was an unexportable English woman," Mr. Lane said later. "She couldn't keep a horse and a garden in New York City." They remained friends. "I'm too selfish to dislike people," Mr. Lane once said. "I find people interesting or uninteresting. If they're uninteresting, I can't be bothered. They don't exist." When it comes to Kenneth J Lane costume jewelry, pieces were designed using materials including enamel, coral, rhinestones, turquoise, jade, metallics, crystal, faux pavé colorless stones, plastics with applied ornamental inset or set stones. Kenneth J Lane costume jewelry looks high-end and stylish. It is well-made costume jewelry, and the materials, while not fine jewelry status, have a stylish look. The marks for Kenneth J Lane, like those that may be found in other pieces of his costume jewelry, are important for identifying the early pieces and helpful in sorting out the fakes and forgeries, of which there are many. His jewelry reflected his encyclopedia knowledge of Asian art. Art Deco, his favorite architectural style, and Middle Eastern influences evident in the arm cuffs, large necklaces, and hanging earrings, and the designs that incorporated Buddhas, dragons, and Indian goddesses. Other popular pieces were neck collars, bib necklaces, animal cuff bracelets, opera-length and longer strands of faux pearls. He traveled to the museums of the world to be inspired by the work of celebrated designers and by the jewelry of European and Indian royalty. Closer to home, his big cat pieces were inspired by Cartier. He was even inspired by his former work on shoes. He covered bracelets with skins of cobra, alligator, and lizard. Mr. Lane was especially adept at copying high-end jewelry. His clients would have him copy their costly pieces so that they could wear the copies without the fear of losing them or being robbed of them. It was quite the status symbol to be seen wearing a copy by Kenneth. So yes, if he wasn't enough of a celebrity on his own as a costume jeweler to the rich and famous, he amped up his name recognition with a long-running stint on the home shopping channel QVC early in the 1990s. Even before that, many American women were introduced to his jewelry through his offerings in Avon catalogs. Lane's jewelry had also been sold in high-end boutique settings, as well as through noteworthy department stores like Neiman Marcus. Kenneth Lane jewelry is still being produced and can be found in department stores and on his website. Mr. Lane's jewelry is being made and still worn by the rich and famous, as you can see this picture of Kate Middleton and her earrings. In addition, in 1997, KJL Jewelry on QVC took in approximately $1.5 million during each of the 4-hour bi-monthly appearance on the TV shopping channel. Vintage and pre-owned pieces are available through secondary marketplace and can be found in all price ranges. His awards include a special Cody Award for his jewelry designs in 1966, the Harper's Bazaar International Award of 1967, the Neiman Marcus Fashion Award in 1968, and the Swarovski Award in 1969. Mr. Lane wrote a memoir, Faking It, with Harisse Simmons Miller, published in 1996 by Harry and Abrams. As a benefactor of the Metropolitan Museum of Art, Mr. Lane was honored when it named a room of European Orientalist paintings after him in 2007, part of the renovated galleries for the 19th and earliest 20th century European paintings. In 1969, his company was acquired by the fashion conglomerate Kenton Corporation, an organization that encompasses a few other well-known names such as Cartier and Valentino. And soon Kenneth J Lane boutiques, which had been established in Paris and London, opened in New York. In addition to shares in the parent organization, Mr. Lane received a lump sum and an employment contract. But within 5 years, he repurchased the company. Shortly before his death, Kenneth J. Lane, the king of maximalist bijou, came up with Tory Burch, the queen of all American fashion. In 2004, when Tory Burch first launched her clothing label, she wasn't thrilled at the prospect of designing under her own name. I was still trying at that point to have some privacy, she recalled, rolling her eyes at her youthful naivety. So I called it Tory by TRB. It was a horrible name. Horrible or not, the moniker stuck for 2 years, until one night over dinner, her friend, the costume jewelry designer Kenneth J. Lane, decided to level with her. We were at a small party at somebody's house, recounted Lane, and I said to Tory, why in the hell are you Tory by TRB? Who is TRB? Why don't you just call it Tory Burch? For God's sake, everyone else is calling it Tory Burch anyway. And so the very next morning, she changed her name. Mr. Lane died July 20th in 2017 in Manhattan, New York. He was 85 years old. He turned the direction and ownership of his company over to his executive vice president, Chris Shepard, who had been with the company for 20-some years and remains the president today.